There is nothing wrong with your YouTube channel. We are in control. We control the transmission, and we will control everything that you see and hear. Unless, of course, turn us off, but don't do that.
No, don't do that.
Anyway, welcome to Enchantment of Eternity. Here to talk about my top 10 episodes of The Outer Limits. Showing, I believe, I'm calling it some newbies, showing these episodes for the first time. Darrin, thanks so much for joining. And of course, Don, thanks as always. Great to have you. So Darrin, how much of The Outer Limits have you seen before?
I saw the Sand Kings when it came out, which is actually kind of fun that this was not on your list. Also was I think the longest episode, 2 parts, then an hour and a half each or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, not a whole lot. I've got to say I wasn't doing a lot of syndicated, and this was kind of that, too much cheap effects and everything looks like it's shot on a sound stage, and my young arrogant self was like, I'm not gonna waste time with that. But no, I mean, honestly, but it was fun to kind of jump in because it was very much like the old series was, which I do remember watching of the original Outer Limits, the early 60s, I believe. So no, this was fun to jump in, and I actually really got into a lot of these episodes. So I'm excited to talk with you guys about this.
Cool. And Don, thanks so much for joining. How much of The Outer Limits have you seen before?
I think I had seen more of the movies than anything. Were there movies?
No, not to my knowledge.
There weren't any Outer Limits TV movies.
Just the Sand Kings that Darrin mentioned. That was a 2-hour premiere.
So maybe that was the only thing I had seen of The Outer Limits. I knew about it, but I couldn't tell you what channel it came on back then. Sorry. I found it when you told me about doing this. You said it was on Roku, but I actually found it on Amazon, so I watched it all there.
But you didn't have to pay for it?
No, it was part of the Prime subscription.
When I looked, they were charging for it, so that's why I went to Roku. I had to deal with the shitty commercials they have, but I have the last 3 seasons on DVD, so when I got to that part, I would just use my DVD. But in case you're wondering, it originally came out on Showtime for the first 6 seasons. Okay. Season 7, Showtime canceled it and then moved to the Sci-Fi channel, but just for 1 season.
Yeah, because the whole vibe gives me Sci-Fi channel. I didn't have Showtime back then, so.
Yeah. And same with Stargate SG-1. That would also start on Showtime and move to the Sci-Fi channel. In fact, a lot of the same producers and people on The Outer Limits moved over to Stargate SG-1. The one that's most obvious to me is the music. The music's almost exactly the same. They got the same composer to do it. And there are a couple episodes not on my top 10, but there's some episodes where I was like, this is just like a Stargate SG-1. I was looking for the good.
Oh yeah. No, we'll get into that. That's no. Actually, that's a reason why a lot of people forget that it premiered on Showtime, which is why if you watch the premiere episode, you will get full frontal nudity.
There are several episodes, especially in the first couple of seasons.
Yeah. Where it's which has shocked people I've seen in comments on Twitter and Facebook and such. They're like, yeah, man, I thought I'd get into SG-1 and was not expecting that.
Yeah, that's right. But it's funny because the DVD versions I have are the syndicated versions, so they cut out all the nudity and whatnot. But I'm fine with that. I don't really need that. But anyway, So when it first came on, I also did not have Showtime. and for some reason I really wanted to watch the show. I remember renting Sand Kings from Blockbuster and watching that because they had that, and I loved it and I wanted to watch more of it, but I didn't have Showtime. And so I always thought of it. I was like, what, 14, 15, something, a teenager at the time. And I always thought of this as like, oh, this amazing show that I can't watch. And it's funny watching it now. I see like, oh, it is really low budget. Like it did not age all that well, the special effects and all that stuff. But no, at the time I thought it was like this great thing. And so it started coming on syndication like eventually, and I get the impression, I didn't know this for sure, but that syndication was only showing certain episodes because I would see the same episodes over and over and over again, and there apparently is like nearly 100 episodes that I wasn't seeing, that they just weren't showing. And so there's some episodes in my top 10 that I remember watching like way back when I was a teenager, but most of them I saw recently because I watched the entire series, I want to say 4 years ago, because it's something I've been wanting to do, and I did that for my channel, and that's when I came up with my top 10, although I have changed it around from when I did my top 10 4 years ago, so it's a little bit different, which I'll get into. But anyway, yeah, so let's start with, I mean, you kind of touched on this already, but what were your overall thoughts after watching these 10 episodes? Darrin, I'll start with you.
No, they were really fun to dive in. I did certainly appreciate your ranking for the most part. I think I was right with you for all of these episodes. And yeah, it's one of those where you realize it's like back in the day when you had so many episodes per season that you had to get, you were always going to get some stinkers and some amazing gems. Just kind of like just throwing things out there. And I think that's probably how I had seen this, because growing up watching so much of Twilight Zone and things like that, you know, I understood the moral quandaries that they were going for. What really got me into is when this really clicked, it was awesome. Several of the episodes I had such a blast with, and was really just very commanding. There's a few of them that I'm like, yeah, okay, I see where you're going at, but you had fun doing that. And what I found was that for the most part, nothing was really insulting. Once you got past kind of the cheesiness of the effects and whatever the basicness of the production, there were some good stories that were being brought up. Some a bit tropish, some a little more novel. But like I said, when it really kind of clicked in and you had a good cast and a good set of writers, it really, I think, made a great big impact and would leave you thinking about the episode after it aired. And to me, that's a big win.
Cool. Yeah. And Don, what were your thoughts?
Sick, twisted, in the most thought-provoking ways. You know, I actually really loved. I mean, like, yes, the special effects absolutely did not age well at all. But the storytelling did, and I think that's the most important part.
Absolutely. Yeah, so the original idea for the Outer Limits was, in the 60s version, was to sort of compete with the Twilight Zone, but it would be more science fiction, more sci-fi based. And yeah, with the revival, they sort of continued off of that same. I think, unlike Twilight Zone, the newer versions was actually better than the original, in my opinion. I tried watching some of the original Outer Limits, and I just couldn't. Just couldn't.
It was all the voice. That's what the original Outer Limits was all the voice.
Yeah. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump in to my top 10. I will say, oh yeah, the one thing I was going to mention is that if by watching the show binging the whole entire show from start to finish is not something I'd recommend, and it's not something I'd ever do again, because as much as I love this show, the majority of the episodes are kind of either mediocre or really bad. I wouldn't say the majority are really bad. I would say the really bad is minority, but they're there. I would say the majority are mediocre. In my top 10, I choose the most of like the science, like fiction, like the space based or the alien stuff. There's a lot of episodes that do the same thing about a scientist who has an invention and his boss doesn't want to make him do it. He loses his funding, so he injects himself. Like they have like 50 episodes that are like that, and I don't like any of them. And yeah, my top 10 is really different than IMDb's top 10 as well, but I'll get into that. So I want to start by listing off a few fan favorite episodes that were honorable mentions, that were in like my 20s, maybe, that people might be like, oh, why didn't you mention that? There was The Human Operators. I think that was my number 12. That was like one where the ship enslaved these ships, sentient ships enslaved the human race, which is interesting. There was Quality of Mercy with Robert Patrick and Nicole DeBoer, where the humans were at war with these alien race, and it's about a prisoner meeting this other prisoner, and they're trying to get out, whatever. I won't give away the twists for these. And Second Soul was actually a really good pro-immigrant and pro-refugee episode. I almost included that just because of the times. It was about alien refugees. And then there's the last one I want to mention is Decompression, which starred the captain from Babylon 5. What's his name? Boxletter or something. And he played this one I will give away. I'm sorry, I will spoil it because I love it. It had this guy running for a senator who's eventually going to run for president. He's on the plane, and the visitor from the future says, your plane's going to crash and we need to save you because the future is this terrible dystopia because you weren't there to fix it. And he doesn't really believe her, but she keeps appearing and no one else can see her. And eventually he agrees to just jump off the plane because she's like, we'll save you. We'll travel you to the future and you'll be fine. And so he does it. And then she's like, actually, you're the evil dictator that makes dystopia. And I just convinced you to kill yourself so it never happens. That was a relevant episode, I will say.
Sure.
But I don't know. It didn't quite make my top 10 because it's a bit too drawn out. Like too much of the episode is him being like, jump, no, and but I like the twist ending. Anyway, actually, the last episode I want to mention real quick is almost been my number 10. So Feasibility Study was my number 10. I was going back and forth between this episode and that episode. I couldn't decide. Eventually I went with Feasibility Study, but my original number 10 was Rite of Passage, which is an episode with a very young James Marden. He looks so young. And it's about these aliens who are like controlling the human race, and the human are dependent on these alien overseers. And there's they separate the father from a mother when the mother gives birth, and so the couple runs away because they don't want to be separated. They want to stay together, and they face this harsh jungle with all these dangerous animals and stuff. Good twist ending, which I won't give away, but yeah, that was nearly my number 10. All right, so how this is gonna go is I'm gonna list the episode. I'm gonna say the episode title and the brief synopsis and some facts about, maybe some trivia about it real quick, and who wrote it and what other stuff they wrote. I'm not gonna mention like their whole everything that they wrote, but like a couple things that stood out to me. Like one or two things, and same thing with the director. I'll mention the director and a couple other shows they directed on. And I'm also going to list what the ranking is on IMDb out of 152 episodes, how high was it ranked, and the rating on IMDb. And then I'll turn it over to Darrin and Don and let them explain what they thought of the episode, and then I'll give my thoughts on why it's in my top 10. Cool. All right. So let's go ahead and get started with that. So my number 10. Oh yeah, sorry. Before I start, I want to ask you guys a question. When you watch these, did you watch them in order from 10 to 1?
I did, except that I watched number 1 first. And then I was like, oh, I should watch these in the reverse order so they get better at time.
Yes.
And then I rewatched the first one again for reasons that we'll get to. But yeah, I thought that I'd try and follow up your list for the most part.
So I actually watched in season order because I wanted to see if there was any way, because sometimes some shows get better throughout the season, sometimes they get worse. I just wanted to see, okay, what was the quality level season to season? And I mean, I think you picked some pretty good episodes. So for me, everything I've seen is kind of, they all kind of stack up together. So
I will say I do think that the later seasons had a smaller budget. And so I think maybe the earlier seasons are a bit more quality, but there's still some well-written episodes in the later season. But okay, so that's just an interesting perspective. But we're going to go in order from 10 to 1. So we'll start with my number 10, which is Feasibility Study, Season 3, Episode 17. A chunk of the city is ripped from the earth and the inhabitants studied. So this is a remake of a 60s Outer Limits episode from 1964. It was written by the same writer who wrote the 60s episode, Joseph Stefan, who also wrote the Star Trek Next Generation episode, Skin of Evil. It is directed by Ken Grotti, I believe is how you pronounce it. And he had directed episodes of Stargate SG-1, Vikings, Daredevil, and Orphan Black. The ranking on IMDb out of 152 episodes was number 14. The rating on IMDb was a 7.8. So, Don, we'll start with you on this one. What did you think of this episode?
You know what? It's funny how you just have people who it's okay. So all of this stuff winds up being poignant to today, just in terms of how you see governments treating people and kind of sweeping things under the rug. You have stuff that comes to light about how they're actually doing things underhandedly, and it's when you find out like what the true purpose of everything is. Sorry, one moment. Lucky, stop. When you find out what the true purpose of everything is and how they decide to control masses, it's just one of those things where you're just like, oh wow, okay, so you have engineered this entire society just to kind of see, like, well, what, almost as a social experiment to a certain extent. And it's just like the different iterations of how people do that in different societies and how they develop their different I'm not even sure how to, like, what the right verbiage is, but I guess the different societies that spring up from governments doing these kind of social experiments on the population. It winds up like I would hate to live in that particular world because of it, because I'm sorry, I may be rambling, but
I'm sorry. I'm just wondering if you're talking about the right episode.
Hold on. Feasibility Study is what? Am I talking about the wrong one? Hold on. Sorry, folks. It has been a very, very long day.
So yeah, this is the one with the father and the teenage girl, and she wants to run away with her boyfriend, but then the neighborhood they live in gets lifted up into space, and these aliens.
Probably because that was the first one I watched. Maybe I'm getting a little confused by it right now, and I'm thinking about another episode.
Well, I would see where it kind of like blows into Stasis, which will go on into the next.
Yeah, I think you might have been talking about Stasis. Yeah,
but well, here I'll jump in real quick. It's funny that you were mentioning the writer, because this is where the first in the credits, because of course it's number 10, where I notice what Brandon's mentioned here in the chat is Naren Shikar, who of course was all the way back from Star Trek Next Generation, and then he did The Expanse, of course. He's doing For All Mankind. He's involved with For All Mankind. He did CSI, which I did not know, and an old series called Almost Human with Carl Urban, which was for one season, and I really liked it, and they canceled it. And I think Urban himself said at that point, he's like, if they cancel this show, I'm never doing television again. And he hasn't. So...
Well, The Boys, that's streaming.
It's a little, okay, fair enough, a little different, but yeah. No, this was kind of an interesting one, because again, first really jumping in, how is the show going to do it? Their aliens a little cheesy, and in some ways a little quick with the, why does this thing show up and grab the girl like that? You can save us because you've got a Walkman and I don't understand technology. I mean, there was a little. It's one of those things where it's kind of cheesy as everything sort of lays itself out. But when it pops up to its big ending, which is basically the realization of they want to find out if we're great slaves. And if we are, they're going to Earth and they're going to enslave everybody. So what do we got to do? I guess spoiler alert for all of these episodes, people, because I am going to reveal the twist when it gets to it.
Oh no, I forgot to give the spoiler warning at the start. We are going to reveal the twist of the episodes we're talking about.
But the idea of like, oh, we just all got to die. We just got to prove that we're not going to survive because we got this infection of whatever it is. And, it's like they don't have to explain the infection, or was it from that race, or was it from the air, or was it a thing, or it's like it didn't really matter. It was just the idea that, all right, man, we're all going to choose as the community that we're going to sacrifice ourselves for humanity. And that was really cool. Was it a little cheesy how they did it with everyone grasping hands in the church? Sure, but it worked. It portrayed its meaning very well there. And I really appreciate, especially just, again, how the town really rallied together at the end.
Yeah, I was going to mention Naren Shankar. He was a writer on the show for the later seasons, I believe, maybe season 3 through 5 or 6, something like that. But it's just so happened he didn't write any of the episodes I chose for the top 10. But
yeah. I think, I saw him in the credits as like a story consultant or advisor or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And he did write a few episodes too. Don, so is this episode coming back to you?
I don't know why. I must have been drunk or something, because for some reason, I see that I crossed it off on the list that I watched it, and the day that I watched it, I'm like, so I know I watched it. Because yes, I do remember the whole thing, running to the woods and it was the alien and nobody wanted to believe it at first.
Yes.
Yes, I do remember the energy field around the town. And for some reason, I don't remember anything else. Oh my god, this is so embarrassing.
Fair enough.
All right, went on rambling.
It's number 10 anyway.
Yeah. So yeah, as I mentioned, like I was back and forth between this being my 10 or 11, but I honestly ultimately chose this because of the production value over the other episode, because I think it is well directed and well acted. The aliens do look like cheesy puppets, but that's just the aging sort of thing. Yeah, I don't know. It made total sense to me that this episode was a remake of a 60s one, because it seems like that was a common trope in like Twilight Zone, Outer Limits, or short stories from the 60s, was to focus on a suburban neighborhood, and there's always your typical asshole neighbor and a friendly neighbor, and then some weird shit like sci-fi shit happens to them. Like I read a couple short stories like that and saw a couple Twilight Zone episodes like that, but I think this one really works for me. It was actually, I thought it was going to be a typical cliche, oh, this is why you shouldn't be assholes to your neighbors, which, I mean, there was an element to that, but that wasn't the whole point of it. The whole point is these people deciding to sacrifice themselves in order to save the human race, and how in the end they sort of came together and set aside their differences to do that, because they realized, like, in that debate and argument of how they would do it, like, yeah, it was, to me, it's the kind of ending of the Outer Limits that I really like. That's sort of dark and twisted, but in a meaningful way.
Yeah, to me, it really set the stage for all the episodes to come. It's like, okay, this is where we're this is our base right here. This is where we're coming from. All right.
Yeah, and I will say, if you do watch the entirety of the Outer Limits, like, there's a lot of episodes. As we can see with this top 10, though, not every episode ends in the sort of dark, twisted way, but there's a lot of them that do, and some of them feel kind of contrived. Like, okay, you just feel obligated to make this all dark and twisted. But for me, the ones I listed here are the ones that actually really work. But okay, so let us jump into my number 9, which is, hold on, find my thing, which is Stasis, season 6, episode 9. In a world where resources are limited, each shift of workers is placed in stasis during their off hours. A man and a woman from different shifts fall in love and try to circumvent the system. It is written by Lawrence Myers, who wasn't really involved in anything I thought was of note. It was directed by Brian Giddens, who is a first assistant director for The Outer Limits. His only directing credits were on The Outer Limits. He was a first assistant director for many other shows, though, including The X-Files and Fringe. The ranking on IMDb out of 152 is number 60. Rating on IMDb is a 7.2. So Darren, we'll start with you for this one.
Well, I mean, it's got Sean Patrick Flannery in it. So, I mean, that's always going to excite me. Young Indiana Jones himself. Well, the older young Indiana Jones.
I was like, who's that?
Yep.
Like, I don't recognize that name.
Was also in the Boondock Saints, for a lot of people that are into early 90s action shows. Also, another episode that proves that all revolutionaries are required to wear a beret. Just necessities, folks. You gotta have your revolutionary costume. Yeah, this was a fun episode. I mean, again, it's a love story, and you kind of see what's gonna happen. And, you know, it does have its trick of, you know, the friend betraying them, but they are able to sort of get a little bit more of a hopeful ending ultimately in the end. But yeah, it's the idea of like what would a world do with restricted resources, and then ultimately how that becomes a trap. That was the kind of fun little thing that I enjoyed of this episode. Is it's not that it really was necessary, but we had done it for so long, and the people who weren't having to sleep, the people that were in power, don't want to give up that power, and that becomes an entrenched thing. And ultimately, that was what they had to overthrow. So, kind of what I liked about this was one of the idea that even a system that we may, be willing to sacrifice for, and to keep us alive, to keep humanity alive, to save resources, which again is also a comment on our world right now. Well, then you're still going to power imbalances, and the people that are in power ultimately will not want to give up that power, and they would rather keep a system, even if it doesn't work, that keeps them in power. So yeah, ultimately something that has to be overthrown. Okay, let's do it. But I loved how it was more than just the love story, more than just, hey, this isn't fair. But they really were diving into the cultural, ramifications of this, which is something I do like that reoccurs throughout a lot of these Outer Limit episodes. Was, what happens when people get too entrenched in their own ideas.
Yeah, and I just want to point out Brandon in the chat saying, "Damn me, how 1984 was that?" Yeah, it is. It is kind of a. I mean, I don't think it was full on like brainwashing kind of thing, but it's definitely dystopian. Also, Brendan mentioned about feasibility study that they all turned into Suliban at the end. I was like, the more I thought of it, I was, oh my god, yeah, they did kind of look like Suliban. But anyway, Don, was this the episode you were talking about just before?
Kinda. I think I kind of fused the both of them just a little bit.
Okay.
But either way, love this episode. Yes, it definitely gave 1984 vibes. The fact that the betrayer was named Winston was
oh yes, that was a 1984 reference. That's right.
Right, because I'm like, wait, is this supposed to be Winston? Years in the future after he's already given in to Big Brother. Could this possibly be a descendant of his or something? But I definitely thought, the whole kind of star-crossed lovers thing, and just the interplay with, hey, listen, well, no, they're in this place for a reason, and you're over here, so no, you can't intermingle with them because you're not even on the same ships, and that's on purpose, and just that whole thing of like, wait, hold on, you guys did this to save, like, no, we can't keep living like this. This isn't living at all. You basically, you go to work and then you go back to sleep. You go to work, you get some food, you go back to sleep. I mean, yeah. I mean, how do you expect for people for generations upon generations to think, yeah, this is a good way for us to exist? So, yeah, again, like the fact that they kind of rose up at the end and said, hey, you know what? No, everyone's waking up, and either we figure this out or we all starve and die, but like at least we get the opportunity to try to live rather than just exist in whatever the hell this is supposed to be. So, yes, one of the very few kind of hopeful ambiguous endings rather than the dark and, oh, this is going to go bad ambiguous ending. So I like that a lot. Also,
nice feint with the villain, the betrayer, always thinking that it's the friend and that he's in love with the girl, all the thing, and in the end, yeah, he is kind of in love with the girl, but he's gonna do the right thing for his buddy, and I've appreciated that because they really set it up like he was definitely backstabbing him throughout it, and I like the fact that in the end he was there. He remembered where he came from.
Yeah, he was just putting on an act so he wouldn't get caught. Yeah, I did like that twist. It was good. I recognize that actor, by the way, from Stargate Atlantis. He played a reoccurring character on that show.
Oh, okay, that's why I looked familiar. All right, nice.
Yeah, it took me a while to connect the dots. I was like, why does this guy look so familiar? But watching this episode again, I mean, this is maybe one of the episodes I doubted maybe putting in my top 10 after rewatching it, but because the acting isn't the best and the dialogue isn't the best, and the ending is a bit rushed. It seems like they conquer the evil society way too quickly, but I love the message. It's a very interesting sci-fi concept. The whole half the world's in stasis, and then it creates this like aristocracy sort of thing where they could share the resources with everyone if the rich people just didn't hoard all the resources, which modern times, very relevant when this episode was made, and still maybe even more relevant now. And so that message of sort of rising up against that is something I found very sort of inspiring and very sort of gratifying, the ending. And so, yeah, as Don mentions, one of the few episodes that does have a really happy ending. But that's why I still have it in my top 10 though. I mean, maybe I would push it back to number 12 or something if I rearrange things, but it's up there mainly because of the interesting concept and the relevant message. All right, so let us move on to my number 8, which was Tempests. It is season 3, episode 9. After being bitten by an alien spider, a crewman of a crashed spaceship has difficulty distinguishing between his hallucinations and reality. This was written by Hart Hansen, who eventually went on to be the showrunner for Bones and The Finder. He wrote 3 episodes of Stargate SG-1. And this is the only episode of The Outer Limits that was written by Hart Hansen. It was directed by Mario Azzopardi, if I'm pronouncing that right. He also directed episodes of Stargate SG-1, Stargate Atlantis, and Sliders. Ranking on IMDb out of 152 is number 24, so pretty popular. And the rating on IMDb is a 7.6. All right, so Don, let's start with you for this one.
Okay, so this one was crazy, like trying to figure out which is the real world versus which is the hallucination. Excuse me. And he's flipping back and forth, and it's like, are you here or are you there? I'm here. I liked the character's determination to like figure out what the truth was while he's slowly going insane at the same time, and people just looking at, like, imagine no matter which world you're in, whether you're in the dream world or the waking world, everybody's looking at you like you're crazy because you're the one that this is happening to, and just like in the blink of an eye, you're in the middle of doing something, and all of a sudden you're somewhere else. It kind of put me in the mind frame of the last episode of Next Generation a little bit, except this wasn't jumping back and forth through time. This was, like living 2 totally different lives at the same time. So that was the thing for me that kind of was like, man, how does a person not, you know, how does a person not want getting themselves either killed or committed to an insane asylum after an experience like that? So loved it, you know. You know, again, ambiguous ending, but not too sad, but not too dark. Luckily, not too dark, because Mark, I was sitting there like, you just picked all of the stuff where people just have to do the craziest things for the future. So yeah, man, no. I'm glad that this was one of them where, you know, the semi-happy ending. It wasn't all gloom and doom.
Oh, I think you missed the last 2 minutes.
Yeah, I think you missed the ending. Yeah. I'll say it now because I think this is the most depressing episode of The Outer Limits.
Oh yeah, I was going to say,
what?
Very different from the previous episode on your list.
Okay, wait. So, what was the ending then? Because I mean, like,
find out both of those realities were fake. They were both imagined because he was still in the decompression room. His bug had gotten through his suit, and all of this, he's in that cocoon being the life sucked out of him. And this is all different imaginings in his head at that time. It's like he was dead by the middle of the episode, or like the first 15 minutes of the episode.
Yeah, his entire crew was, so that medicine's never going to go to the colony. They're all dead. They're stuck on the planet.
It's so messed up, especially how he's like, we're going to do it. And then, you know, I love the fact that in one of his imaginings, seeing like what's happening to him, but another person, you know, the other crewmen were saying, oh yeah, she got bit, you survived. And she's just repeating, I see it, or whatever it was that she was saying. And it's like, in reality, that's what he's doing, just repeating the little hopeful imagining that his mind is going, is getting sucked away, and everybody dies. So dark, so messed up. Which, you know, yeah, it. At the end, once you get that, you're like, oh, this isn't like a whatever episode. What's reality? What's it? It's like, it's all just a mind fuck. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to me, that was its redeeming, because it's almost getting a little cheesy to me at points. And the fact that at the end, where they just commit to the, oh no, it's all bad. I was like, all right. That's a dark one. That's a dark one to go with. Again, very different from the happy revolution of the episode we just watched before.
Did I? Wait, wow. Did I really fall asleep in the last 2 minutes?
Yeah, because he's flying in that ship into the pod, and he has the thing, and he's like, I hear them. They're going to pick me up. They hear me.
So what he's saying is, I saved them, and then they flash to him, being in a spider cocoon with them leeching on him, going, I saved them. Yeah. Really messed up.
You got to have better safety parameters. Respect your environment when you crash land, folks. Okay? You know.
I think the more apt Next Generation episode to compare it to is Frame of Mind, when he's jumping back and forth between realities, but turns out they're both fake. But yeah. So yeah, when I first saw this episode, I don't like, until the ending, as like you said, Darren, I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I was like, okay, where are they going with this? And this is one I had to sit with for a little while before I yeah, that's actually really good how fucked up it is. Like, this is fucked up. If there's an episode of Death, Love, and Robots from season 1 that was very similar to this and had the same sort of vibe. And there's like this music video I watched once that was animated, and it also was a similar thing, both about aliens making the person think they're in this lovely environment, but they're really just sucking the life out of them. So maybe not an uncommon, storyline, but I think the way it was executed was really well. I think it hooked me. Like the whole going back and forth between different realities, like that threw me because I thought, oh, which one is real? But then you find out neither.
It changed very nicely in that last minute, because you're with him. You're like, yeah, he's gonna save his people. He figured out, he committed. It's like, no, dude, you've been dead for 3 hours already. Your mind just hasn't caught up to it yet. So messed up.
I think that's it's not the dude from Will and Grace who starred in this episode.
He looked kind of familiar, but not. I haven't seen enough of anything he's been in to be able to pull that up.
Yeah. And then he went on to do Travelers more recently. I think it's the same guy. But anyway, let's go ahead and move over to my number 7, which was Summit, season 5, episode 13. A planet of genetically engineered humanoids that are mining resources for Earth are demanding their independence from human oppression. This was written by Scott Peters, who has written episodes for V, the 2000s version, the 4400, Goosebumps, and Are You Afraid of the Dark? It was directed by James Head, who directed an episode of Battlestar Galactica, the 2000s version, and Stargate Atlantis. The ranking on IMDb out of 152 is number 43, and the rating on IMDb is a 7.3. So Darren, let's start with you for this one.
Okay, this is to me shifted in the next gear, and to me was a great example of what a good actor can do with material, because there's the great Michael Ironside in it, and he owns this episode. All of his quiet stuff, his big stuff, his character. I was just like, oh, I mean, really, he grabbed me in this whole thing. And I think Marsha Cross was like supposed to be the bigger lead or whatever, the girl. And she did fine. And you had a great character actor, John Spencer, there also. So it was like a good, not, these aren't crappy actors by any means, but it just shows how good Michael Ironside is. And there are other episodes in this list where the actor just grabs and owns the episode. And it's great. It's a lot of misunderstandings. It's a lot of expectations, a lot of these expectations getting the way of finding a solution. There are ways to do it. And I loved how when she went through her kind of bit, he was almost there supporting, is just realizing like, this is the way that things are. This is the reality of stuff. Got to own these things. And this is what we're going to respect. And it was like reaching out without showing weakness at any point, of trying to find that solution and trying to find a way past the side, but to deliver that lesson at the same time. And yeah, ultimately very tragic end. And that was the one thing I was like, oh my God, are we going to watch all of these people shoot themselves? And yes, we did. Very slowly, very intensely. Everybody had a moment. I mean, not something I'd expect that you would see in shows these days. There was an edge to some of these 90s choices. Also cable. So Showtime. So yeah, that was the one thing at the end. I was like, wow, we really gonna see them. Yeah, we are okay. Just each one. We're not gonna cut away. We're not gonna just do a group. Nope. I'm sorry. You can't just blow yourselves up. You could just cut out the thing. We need to see you die on screen. But you know, I think there was the legitimacy from their standpoint. And yeah, that sacrifice made peace. So it was dark. I was just impressed they committed to that.
So you know what's funny? I don't know if you guys ever remember this cartoon from the 90s called Exo Squad. No?
Yeah, faintly, yeah.
Okay. Look up Exo Squad because this episode reminded me of that series. Almost similar premise where you had genetically engineered humanoids that rebelled against the regular humans or whatever, and some there were peace accords, and some of the stuff broke down. This again, John Ironside absolutely just ran the gamut on the show and brought a gravitas to the episode. When he's like, I don't know, show me that you're sincere. I need to feel your sincerity here. No. Not until you show me that you're sincere can we actually negotiate. So, and then each test that kind of, brought the humans to the level where the ambassador, well, no, she wasn't the ambassador, she was like commander or senator or something of that nature. But point is, she was like, oh wow, okay, because she remembered what he said about being willing to do like that. There was it was like basically there was no ultimate cost for peace. There shouldn't be anything you shouldn't be willing to do in order to actually get peace. So, there as his body is on the floor and his government is basically like, oh no, screw it, we're fighting. He's like, wait. I know the one thing that I can give you that will prove to you that I'm sincere about this. And I was like, oh, like when I heard her say that and she looked over at him, I was like, oh well, he did say, I was surprised that they like made them go through with it though. I was surprised that that I was thinking, okay, hey, we'll take you hostage until the negotiations are finished or something like that. They were like, oh, really? Okay. Oh, you're gonna kill yourself for this. Okay, cool. Popcorn. Yeah. Bring the good champagne. Yes, I need to see. Oh, this is gonna be amazing. So that was the thing that got me about it, because they're like, oh no. Listen, we lost 7 people. You don't have 7 people to lose. So we'll take what you got, but if even one of you backs out, is war. Like imagine that you basically have to volunteer for a pact with people. Like, and this is it's either you kill yourself or full scale war. You're gonna die anyway, and so does everyone else. Like talk about put an impossible bind. Yeah, so like it was ironic though. The one guy, I guess he was an engineer. He was like, "I will not die by a weapon of war," and decides to electrocute himself. It was like, yeah, dude. Now listen, I would just shoot me. Yeah, I'll take the shot, man. I'm not going to stand there and fucking fry to death. So, yeah, but still very well put together episode, and find it kind of poignant for today, in a time where I think nobody would be willing to make that kind of sacrifice.
Yeah, true. Yeah, when they were kept saying the dregs, like I felt like they were trying to convince you those were aliens, but I predicted, I was like, no, these are going to be other humans from another colony, and it turns out that it was. So I did see that coming, but I still liked it. I agree with both of you about Michael Ironside. I think his acting was great. Added a lot to the episode, but I liked the character journey of the main character. Like they went through a journey where she was like the assistant who had to take command, and she was still at first like being all by the numbers and insincere, as Michael Ironside put it, and eventually had to bring out her true self. And then at the end was willing to make the sacrifice. So yeah, I thought that was a great character story for her. At the start, when they showed her looking at the picture of her young son, I was like, "Oh, she's going to die! Like she's not making it out." But no, that was it was a really sort of, I don't know, some of my favorite endings of the Outer Limits are the ones that are not just like super depressing, but the ones that are like kind of melancholy. Like it's kind of a good, happy ending and a depressing ending at the same time. Like this is a happy ending because there's not going to be any war, but it's kind of depressing watching them have to kill themselves in order to achieve that.
Well, yeah, I mean, to me, yeah, you're right. That journey that she had from not being sure, then stepping in again, even when she finds out, oh, you faked that thing so you could get over here. It's like, yes, grab your anger, own that,
Yeah.
At the end, she understood where they were coming from. She understood their language, and thus she could realize his statement. And you're right, Don. I love that she looks over and sees his body behind him on the ground. It's like, yeah, well, do anything for peace. What if we all die then? And that'll balance out the equation. We're willing to die for peace. I mean,
yeah. So at first she just offers herself though, but the Admiral guy's like, that's not good enough. It's got to be all of you. But because she didn't want to speak for other people, but they were all just as willing. And that's another thing I really like about this episode, that because they start with a feud between her and that military guy, and it seemed like it would be a typical civilian versus military, but in the end he agreed with her and sided with her, so that was another nice touch.
And of course I've always loved you, which is just great. But again, they do add that dark edge, because even at the end when she shoots herself, then they really pan to her kid like, mom. It's like, oh man, that's just
gotta twist the knife. Just gotta twist the knife.
It's like we're leaving with your hopeful little message, but at least there'll be peace, mom. I mean. So yeah, very Outer Limitsy. Again, it's setting a tone. We've got a tone for the show now.
Yes, but not too like cheesy over the top. Like some of the bad episodes were a bit too cheesy, but this one I think worked. All right, so let's move over to my number 6, Relativity Theory, season 4, episode 6. A survey team searching for resources for Earth lands on a promising planet which appears to be uninhabited. However, they soon come under attack and must decide how to respond. It's written by Carlton Eastlake, who wrote the Star Trek Voyager episode Imperfection, also wrote episodes for Farscape, Sequest, DSV, and V, the 80s version. It was directed by Ken Garati, who I already mentioned. He directed Feasibility Study. The ranking on IMDb out of 152 is number 22. Rating or IMDb rating is a 7.6. So yeah, Don, we'll start with you for this one.
Human beings are crazy. Winston Churchill once said, you can always expect Americans to do the right thing when all other options have been exhausted. And in this case, when you send human beings out into outer space, oh, good lord, I certainly hope that if human beings actually do become spacefaring, that we are way more like Starfleet than like these jerk offs. You know, you go somewhere and it's just like, well, yeah, we're just taking the shit over. Why? Because no one can stop us. You don't know that no one can stop you. Okay, so maybe you should, sit down trying to learn about people and see if there's a way to cohabitate. No. Uh, you killed some kids thinking that they were primitive adults. And now our entire way of life no longer exists because thank you space jerk offs, thank you. um this was definitely a dark and twisted episode. You have people who, you know there's this kind of imperialist attitude of, I can go where excuse me, I can go wherever I want and do whatever I want to whoever or whatever I want. And who's gonna stop me because I have big guns. And when you think you're fighting, like, imagine coming to the realization that you're this hardened space marine, right? You're going around civilizing planets, etc., etc., and then you come across these savages that you just have to do away with because they don't fit into the plans, and then come to find out that the savages are 10-year-olds. This is their alien version of freaking 10-year-old Boy Scouts, and maybe even younger than that, because when how old are human beings when our cranial sutures wind up setting? 5, 6, or something like that. So oh wow, you slaughtered a bunch of toddlers, and now their parents are pissed off. Now we don't have a planet anymore. Thank you, colonial marines. Thank you.
Yeah, if there is any recurring theme to the Outer Limits episodes, it centers around hubris, I think. Because this, and it's funny you had mentioned SG-1 when you were talking about other similarities, because that is my first note. Is this feels like an SG-1 episode? Looks very much like, again, we're in a thing and we're hiking through the mountains and the forests of British Columbia. And of course, you got a lot of the military versus civilians. Again, another kind of recurring theme with a lot of these episodes, a lot of these things, because you've got competing power structures. Yeah, again, another one of those episodes where it was okay. It felt a lot like they were really hammering the colonial exploitation. Yeah, we're just going to wipe out whoever's here and take over the land because we are. I mean, they're even mentioning Manifest Destiny in the middle of the episode. I mean, really, like, just outlining it clearly. Definitely another episode where I think its value hinges on the twist. And yes, that last line of hers when she's like, you just killed a bunch of Boy Scouts on a camping trip. If even one of them had survived, we might have been okay. Because she was trying to save that lady. He was like hunting down and being sure they were all wiped out. So it was like that, so much putting, outlining and underlying and making sure this really was them digging their own grave deeper and deeper. So yeah, again, to me, the episode really hinges on that last realization. Like, great, you just doomed the entire human race. Good job, like Tom said. Good job, Space Marine. But yeah, that line of killing a bunch of alien Boy Scouts on a camping trip, and you think you're king of the world. Yeah, yeah, hubris, folks. That is something. Ooh, our own military could really learn right now. Not going to get political. But it's a good hubris is a good lesson we can learn, I think, at any time.
Well, I think the show itself does get political and have political messages, but yeah, there are several episodes. In fact, there's one more on my list that deals with sort of the manifest destiny, the humanity being the villains and the ones who were colonizing by force. In fact, there's an episode of The Outer Limits called Manifest Destiny. So this is one of the reoccurring themes. Yeah, this I thought handled it like very, very well. I will say the best because the other episode I'm thinking of, that analogy was actually focused on something else, which I'll get to. So I think this is the best one that dealt with that blind colonialism. And I like the character dynamics they set up and how that is an analogy for modern times. Where you have the captain, if he did not die, this would never happen. Because he was more wise. He obviously wouldn't have done the same thing, but you got put in charge this, just blind, sort of unempathetic, military minded, like I hate everyone and I only care about myself, selfish, kind of self-centered kind of, and he wasn't in charge, but he took command. And they stopped listening to the voice of reason, mainly because this guy convinced the others through their greed, to not be empathetic and not do right by people. And this, I just described the American political system right there. People without empathy and who are just in it for themselves convince other people to also go along and be unempathetic because of their own greed. But anyway, and so it was a great analogy for society. And it tells you, like, I see the ending as not just, ooh, look at how dark this is, but more of like, this is where that course leads. If you go to that unempathetic, not caring about people and just caring about your own greed, this is what happens.
Oh yeah, no, that it's ultimately self-destructive. Totally agree. Yeah, like I said, I think while it felt a little heavy-handed at the time, you realize when they get to it, it's like, no, they're really underlining these points to make a message that this blind ambition will cost you in the end, and in fact will probably cost everyone. So yeah,
it's what happens when you put a selfish, unempathetic madman in charge. Anyway. Let's move over to my number 5.
Real quick, just want to throw in Doug Jones played the adult alien in that one. The great Doug Jones, known for playing every alien and creature in the world. So yeah,
I didn't catch that. Interesting. All right, so let's get to my number 5, which is Vanishing Act, season 2, episode 21. Trevor McPhee wants to celebrate New Year's in style. On his way back from the store with the champagne, he has an accident. When he wakes up, he hitches a ride home and finds his wife thinks that he abandoned her 10 years ago. Story is by Jonathan Walker, who went on to be a writer for Continuum, the Van Helsing TV show. He's also an actor who appeared in Stargate SG-1, the 2000s version, and Fringe. Teleplay was by Chris Dickey, who didn't really do anything of note, I thought, anything else. And was directed by Jonathan Glassner, who directed episodes of Stargate SG-1, CSI Miami, 21 Jump Street. Ranking on IMDb out of 152 is number 7, so this one's quite high. Rating on IMDb is an 8.1. So Darren, we'll start with you for this one. I'm actually really curious to what you guys thought of this one, but yeah, Darren, we'll start with you. Oh, you're muted.
I accidentally moved my cursor. Yeah, this one got me. I mean, look, we got John Cryer. It's already pulling back at my old 80s, memory berries there. So that was kind of a fun one, but I don't know if it's just with me getting older and definitely looking back a little bit more onto my life and things like that, and thinking more of the passage of time. But yeah, this one really got me. I like the fact that, again, it moved very well. It didn't dwell. It was like, it just kept.
Hello, can you guys hear me here?
Oh, could you not hear Darren either? I thought it was just me.
No, I couldn't. Sorry, Darren. I don't know what happened, but you had a brilliant soliloquy.
Wow. Okay. For some reason, the mic, there it is. Thank you. But yeah, the audio on my mic was off, not on the button here. So
yeah, I thought it was just my headphones. That's why I was like,
did any of that come out, or was I just like, no? Okay, that's awesome. That is awesome.
Oh wow.
Wow, man, that was really good too. No, all I was saying is just this one really worked for me. This emotionally hit me. I am getting older, so maybe looking back on life and time is a bigger moment for me. But the fact that Cryer was losing so much of time, again, the episode moved very well too. Because it was happening like every few hours, it wasn't like this huge amount of time would pass. he's losing decades, like as the hours go. And the fact that his wife ends up committing so much time there that even her new husband is committed to finding the solution. His kid that gets born along these trips is there for him, is just, again, I mean, I think it really got its sense of timeliness, of being separated, of being lost because you don't have that same aspect of time. And then mostly, I think, again, a little cheesy, but the fact that at the end, when the aliens realize, because of their timeless existence, how he's experienced these moments and what's happening to him, that they're able to send him back to the beginning of the loop so he could actually take that life and really enjoy it and have that time with his family. I thought was just awesome. And again, I think that he would be probably the best husband and the bestest dad ever, because he really understands, he appreciates those moments. You know, the episode starts where he's like, he doesn't appreciate the time, and when are we gonna be here? And you just think just being together is good enough. Don't you have any ambition? And at the end, he's just like, every moment is super value. You know, you could just see that that's his point of view then. And so, yeah, I think emotionally, I got all teary at the end. And it worked for me. Okay, Don, now you can go, now that we just finished this whole long break of me going off and not making a sound at all.
All good. So, okay, weird question. Am I the only one who sometimes John Cryer and Matthew Broderick, confused for just like a millisecond? Okay, so
I can see it.
Yeah, I can see it too. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's literally just for a millisecond, because they kind of played a lot of the same kind of roles in the same kind of time period. So, but shout out to Ducky. Anyway, I really liked this episode a lot. Just for the fact that you have this individual who's trying to figure out, like, what the hell is going on, because this is almost like a not so much like It's a Wonderful Life or Scrooge, but I like the concept of, he didn't appreciate his life, and now every day, for him, a few hours have passed. For everyone around him, it's 10 years. Every time he shows up, So it almost reminds me of that movie Click a little bit. The Adam Sandler. Oh, is it Adam Sandler? Yes, the one with Adam Sandler with the remote. Kind of reminds me of that when he's talking. How he would put the remote on fast forward, and he was like, yeah, he was living his life on autopilot, except he didn't do any of it. It was literally, he goes to sleep, he wakes up, and it's 10 years later. So, a little bit of weight in there too, except, like, he didn't purposely go to screw his life. I mean, listen, he did the thing that a lot of people do on New Year's, which is, I want to celebrate this New Year, I want to have some champagne. Now, was he kind of a jerk about the way he went about things? Yeah, sure. But does he deserve to, to be tortured in this fashion? I don't think so. But the Indians did understand the fact that his wife, once she finally understood, stuck by him, his child, his, the person who first rescued him, I guess you could say. I mean, like, yes, that had to be a, like, not just for Matthew Broderick's character, but for the family involved. You have these John Cryer. I don't know why I just said Matthew Broderick. Yeah, John Cryer's character. Yeah, for his character to go through this, right, and such for him is a short span of time, because if you think about it, like all of this happened within about what 6 or 7 days worth of time for him, but for everyone else, it's 40 or 50 years, worth of, okay, he's gonna pop up one day, and for the first 20 or 30 years, not even realizing that's what was even happening. It wasn't until his wife looked at him one day and noticed, like, hold on, last time I saw him, he was 20 something years old, or yeah, last time I saw him, he could have been in his 30s or 40s. I know I'm in my 50s. I know what I look like. Why does he still look like when we got married? Yeah, because you know what, I think about people that I've known over the years who you don't see them for a long time, and you see how they have aged. So when you see someone, who has, I guess, great genetics and they don't age all that much, but for a fact, it's like, wait, hold on, you're X amount of years old. You look like you haven't aged a day, and in this man's case, he hasn't. So yeah.
Nobody said that about Paul Rudd yet.
Yeah, so interesting story. Glad this one actually had a happy ending. No ambiguity to it. This was a happy ending, and I think they probably only gave it the happy ending because of John Cryer.
It's in his contract.
Yeah. There's several. Yeah, I think there's another one with sort of I don't know. This one is like flat out happy ending. There's a couple ones that you could call happy ending, but it's kind of bittersweet in a way, where this one is just a flat out, just a good, feel good, which is kind of rare for the Outer Limits. But I'm glad they're willing to do it when it fits the story, because I agree, if they had made it all dark, and that kind of would have ruined it. I really like this one. I think it's a really high quality production value, acting, all that sort of thing. And it's a unique concept. The movie, not to err on the side of spoilers, but the movie I would sort of compare to as a rival a bit. But, and I won't say why, but it's a unique concept, and especially for the 90s, and I was surprised to see it. This isn't one of the episodes that actually, I don't think we hit an episode yet that I originally saw when it first aired. Like, I think all the episodes we covered so far is when I watched them just now, not that long ago, and I was kind of pissed off when I watched this episode, because, like, why the fuck did I never see this before? Like, they showed all these other shitty episodes on repeat, but they didn't show me this one. But anyway, it's the one thing I will say, though, it made me think of the Naked Gun 33 and the Third, whereas when they showed a flashback to the 70s, they absolutely exaggerated everything 70s. Like, oh, look at, like, what's his face, OJ Simpson had, like, he's such a big afro he couldn't fit through the door, and they all are, like, going like this and dancing at a disco. They kind of exaggerated each time period in that way as well. Like the 60s, everyone was a hippie, and they were all protesters at. And in the 70s, they were like, oh, he happened to be in a disco. They were all like doing the disco stuff. It wasn't until we got to the 90s that they didn't care, because that was present day for when they made the show. No, but it was a very interesting character story. I like how you did put it in the mindset. Again, it was kind of
Okay, so you're looking and I'm looking, so it is just Mark.
Yeah, Mark, you're frozen. Oh boy.
We don't control the horizontal or the vertical anymore. No.
See, told you, trap.
Wow, it's good to know that we don't get spared audio and technical difficulties in the midst of this. At least at least we can acknowledge directly to Mark that you're definitely frozen right now, man, because you're not going off for 5 minutes. There he goes. He's off. He'll be back in at just a moment. Yeah. Well, like I said, I thought that worked. I think the poignant idea, and I'm glad I'm glad we did kind of get the Hollywood ending on this one, because it would have been so dark if he was just like returned back 10 years later and she had already died, and just his kid was there, or maybe his kid had died as well, and he's completely disconnected, and he could only just look back going, oh, if I just had those moments back. It would be like Time Enough, the old Twilight Zone with Burgess Meredith, where the nuclear bomb happens and he's with the library and he's so excited, I just have all the time to read, and then he breaks his glasses. That would have been that. If we didn't get the Hollywood ending, it would have been like that. It would have been very frustrating.
I mean, yeah, because honestly speaking, I thought it would be where, it's going to end up with it's like 300 years in the future, like, yes, I'm your great, I'm your 3 times or 4 times great grandson, yeah, we've heard about the legend of you, and we're gonna. I was like, I've missed everything. I miss my kids grow up. I miss my grandkids being born. Oh man, like that's what I was figuring was gonna wind up happening.
Or sending him to some alien farm, like, all right, well, we'll send you to a different place where you could experience for us. That's it. You just be our meat puppet for all of time. So yeah, they could have gotten really dark on that episode. I don't know what's happened to Mark. I don't want to move on to the next episode without him, because I don't have the writer and director and all the things that they've done. I don't know what their IMDb rating is.
I don't have any of that either. As you can see, I barely have my faculties as it is.
Sure.
Sorry.
Well, it's 3 hours earlier for me, so I'm only slightly more awake than you are. But where we at? So that's we got 1, 2, 3, so 4 left. So yeah, that was number 5. All right, so we're into the top 5 now.
Yes.
And
no, top 4.
Oh, top.
That 4. Was number 5.
Oh,
yeah, that was number 4.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Now we're in 4 because we got "Think Like a Dinosaur" is the next one that's back.
Man. That was another crazy one.
Well, why don't you go off and talk about that one? He'll give us the information afterwards. What'd you think about "Talk Like a Dinosaur"?
So that was interesting, to see a future where essentially, dinosaurs. Excuse me. Wow, that was weird. Yeah, dinosaurs have such advanced technology that they, can transport humans back and forth and clone bodies and give them vacations. Like, this is like, what? Why? And then with the whole redundancy thing, and it's like, okay, well, yeah, you're here, but you're somewhere else, and your conscious gets traveled back and forth. And what if there's a redundancy? You got to balance the equation. And I'm just like, oh, this is dark. This is just and then at the very end, where when the woman comes back, she's like, "Oh man, yeah, don't you remember? You were my trainer or whatever, man." He was like, "Yeah, no, that was a different person." So, hold on, I think that are we getting?
Yeah,
Okay.
he's Mark was just messaging me. He had lost his internet connection, so he's trying to get on right now. So,
All right. Good old Verizon internet or whoever he has. Spectrum. I don't know how many internet companies there are. Listen, we're going back to monopolies right now. Okay, it's
Yeah,
going to be
yeah.
corporate. It's going to be 100% corporate oligarchy in the next 10 years. So, people, if you have watched Alien Earth, welcome to your future. It's funny. There's a guy in my office who, like, for some reason, he just reminds me of Boy Cavalier from that.
Oh God.
Every time I see him, I call him Boy Genius, and he's just like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm like, yeah, watch the damn show and you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Come on, at least there's some quality television you can jump into. There's Mark.
Hey,
Hi.
lost internet. I'm having to hotspot my phone at the moment.
Ooh.
Well,
Hopefully
Don
this
was just,
will-
we were just giving our opinions on Talk Like a Dinosaur or Think Like a Dinosaur.
Yeah.
Think Like a
Okay.
Dinosaur. We figured we just keep things going, and then you could jump in and give us all the technical information that neither of us have.
So yeah, let me jump in with that then. So, Think Like a Dinosaur, season 7, episode 8. During testing of a molecule transporter device, a duplicate of a woman is created, causing ethical problems as to have the new life terminated. It is based off of a short story by James Patrick Kelly, written by Mark Stern, a producer who worked on Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and shows like the Twilight Zone 2000s version. Only wrote episodes for The Outer Limits and Poltergeist Legacy. Directed by Jorge Montesi, who directed episodes of NYPD Blue, 21 Jump Street, and The Hitchhiker. Ranking on IMDb out of 152 is number 63. So this is the lowest ranked, but out of 152 episodes, 63 being the lowest is still pretty good. Rating of a 7.2. So if you want to real quick summarize what you guys thought of this episode.
Don, you want to wrap up, finish there? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So just kind of piggybacking off of what I was saying before, the moral and ethical quandary was a little jarring, because here you have a person, fully formed, and just like, well, yeah, you're not really a person.
Oh, it's work. Sorry.
Sorry, it's like, yeah, you're a person, but you're not really a person, though. So, yeah, we have to take you out, unfortunately. Just like there's no other option. It was just like, well, yeah, one of you use a clone and one of you use the real one, so somebody's gonna die, and unfortunately, that somebody's got to be you. I know this isn't what you planned for your life. You weren't supposed to be here. You were supposed to, your consciousness was supposed to be tapped back to Earth or wherever, and you're not supposed to exist. So the fact that this happened, oof, sucks for you. But hey, listen, this is the guy who's been training you to jump this whole time. Yeah, he's gonna kill you now, all right? So just stay right there, let him, murder away. Yeah.
Oh yeah, this I love this episode because, of course, I immediately recognize Enrico Colantoni, the actor who played the lead in this. He was Mathazar in Galaxy Quest.
We need your help.
Also, the crime lord Carl Elias in Person of Interest, which is, I think, where he first kind of like hit in my mind. I guess he's been in a bunch of other shows. I didn't watch any of those. So it was kind of cool to see him again, another actor. I'm aware of his later career and now seeing something that he's done, in his early career. This one, I knew where they were going with this immediately because way back in the day when I went to college, I took a philosophy class, philosophy of mind. It was, to me, the class that was like what college was supposed to be. Here we're giving ideas. We want you to think and give us your response back. There was no right or wrong. It was just how you reasoned it. And in this class, they were talking a lot of experience memory. How do we identify ourselves? Our experience memory, the past that we have that remember of those situations and things. And that's what makes us what we are. Well, in the midst of this class, we bring up the idea of the teletransporter, a thing that makes an exact copy of you that digitizes you down to whatever, takes you apart, sends that information over to another machine that creates a new body for you based on all of that material, and you have all of your memories and all of your thing. And the philosophical question is that you? And so we have a big debate in class to get to the point of like, well, it's you, it's made up, it has the same things, it's got your memories and so on. That is you. So that he goes, great. Now, there's a malfunction in the teletransporter, and it doesn't take apart your original body. Or it does, but it then reassembles that. Which one is you? If it sends that information off and makes a complete copy of you over there that you've just argued is you, who is this other person now in this body that you haven't left? And that was one of our big kind of discussions. We had to do a whole paper on that. And it was, again, it's one of those things where, again, there's no right or wrong answer. It's a philosophical question. How do we call ourselves? So when this episode comes out, I knew exactly where they were going because it's the question that you have in a device like this. It makes a copy of you. It digitizes it all down. It sends that information out. And so that's you. What if the original doesn't get destroyed? Now, while I love the philosophical idea of this, and I think it was a little broken because I knew where they were going with it, I was also one of those where I was like, look, if this is such a big technology, shouldn't you just keep that first copy like knocked out? Like in a coma, like give it a thing, give, some medicine and put them at least under some sort of like a suspended animation thing until you figure it out, because you're going to run into this problem. It also thinks that it's the person, and it is, because effectively the body hasn't been destroyed. But you have to balance the equation. You can't have two copies of the same person around. That's really going to mess with your Social Security later on. Taxes are going to be a big mess, and realize it all comes down to taxes, folks. That's why she really had to die. And yeah, the fact that at the end we have the guy is so changed. He's like, no, you're thinking of somebody else, because he, in his own way, isn't that same person. He has changed because he had to kill this woman that he suddenly fell in love with after one conversation, because he's been up there too long and he's lonely. And that's not a cool thing to do with a guy. The dinosaurs are just cruel. They're how do they talk without lips? Anyway, that's not the point. It was, again, I like the episode. I think it was a little spoiled for me because I knew where they were going. And so all I could think of was, why are you having her walk around? That's not smart until you can confirm transmission. You're just asking for trouble at that point. That's a technical error that should have been solved a long time ago, dinosaur aliens.
Well, so I think that because the dinosaur aliens have no sort of emotion, That's how they're portrayed. They don't understand emotion. So I think they wouldn't consider that someone might actually not want to voluntarily sacrifice themselves in order to balance the equation.
Yeah. George the dinosaur is like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I have no emotions. Just go ahead and kill me. That's fine. That's fine. I had a good meal. Thanks. Oh no, you can't eat because you can't transport. They don't even feed you too. It's just cruel.
And if the synopsis I read is to be believed, according to them, it's the copy left behind is the copy, and the other copy that goes is the real person. However, it doesn't state that in the episode. And that's not what I got out of it either. But to me, it was like less of a which copy is the real you, and more of the dilemma of this guy having to commit a murder in order to like save the human race, because of, and how this is not like what he signed up for. Like he just pushes a button that incinerates a duplicate. He doesn't have to actually like interact and kill someone who's alive and interacting with them. And I personally didn't get that they necessarily fell in love. I just got that they sort of had like a closer sort of connection and that they got along fine. And I took when she got back, the other version got back from the other world, and him saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know you," as him disconnecting himself and becoming completely from, not just from her, but from like everybody after that incident. Like, I can't get close to people because what if this happens again? What if I have to sacrifice them and I can't allow myself to get emotional? So he's trying to detach from his emotional being and be more like, think like a dinosaur, like the episode title says, to be more like them. And I also loved that ending. I felt it was very sort of tragic. Like the woman that he had to murder is there standing in front of him, and he's just like, "No, I don't know you." Like, I think he had to constantly like disconnect himself in order to deal with it.
Oh yeah, totally agree.
And this is an episode that at first this was like in my 20s. But the more I thought about it, like the more I liked it, the more powerful I thought it became. Because yeah, it is kind of dark and twisted. But yeah. Brandon, if you are still there, I want to know what you think the darkest episode of the top 10 is, because he thought it wasn't Tempest. I still think it was. Maybe not darkest, but most depressing. Maybe this one might be darker, but I don't know. Anyway,
yeah, no. See, no, Tempest is messed up. This year, you're right. Again, it's a philosophical, and this is the effects of that thought. But no, Tempest is just like, they're all gonna die.
Oh, the Nazi one, but that has a somewhat happy ending. I wouldn't put that as the darkest one. But anyway, before we get to that, let's get to my number 3, which is To Tell the Truth, season 4, episode 14. The founder of a colony on Janus 5 believes that their sun will explode. However, the council chairman resists his pleas to move the colony because he was found to have been wrong before. Written by Lawrence Myers, who also wrote Stasis. Directed by Neil Fearnley. Also directed episodes of Stargate Atlantis, Earth, The Final Conflict, The Highlander Show, and 21 Jump Street. Ranking on IMDb out of 152 is number 38. And the rating is a 7.4. So Darren, we'll start with you again for this one.
Can you hear me? I don't want to start going on a tangent if my mic. No, okay, everything looks fine.
I can hear you.
Yeah, Gregory Harrison and the always asshole William Atherton kind of makes this kind of a classic episode here. This wasn't one of my favorite episodes. I have to say I would have probably put this a little bit lower in the ranking, only because it felt like they had to keep adding layers to keep this kind of like idea or twist or something set up. It was like, oh, we just found this info. Oh, but nobody trusts you because you made a mistake before. Oh, but then we found that there were these aliens. Oh, but they're all dead. Oh, but we actually wiped them out. Oh, but then, I mean, it felt like they just kind of kept layering things on to keep you off center, that I was like, by the end, I was like, okay, I don't know which one of you is, but obviously one of you is definitely an alien. And this is so to me, it just felt a little forced to get their little twist set up, which again, I think just sort of detracted it from me. On the other hand, great moments. I actually loved William Atherton's little ambition speech about, hey, you would have just been some side sergeant and I would have been some middle manager back there with all this, because there's no way we don't know the right people. We weren't born in the right thing, really talking about how, that striation of society is going to keep you from advancing. But if you're out in the middle of nowhere, you're the first person that you can be on top of that hill. Hey, they'll even maybe name a mountain after you. And nobody ever would have thought with you back. It's just, again, it's that ambition of humanity, which I think we could say probably played back a little bit like that previous episode with the killing the Boy Scout aliens, but in a little different way. This, to me, that was much more of the, we're going to take over the world, whatever. This is a much more of a personal ambition idea, where to me, I think that one felt more of a societal drive, That's talking more of the politics, and this is more of the personal drive, which is going to undercut you. So yeah, I mean, I think it was a good episode. I did like kind of at the end, even the fact where the alien basically sacrifices himself to be sure that we get all the stuff for the rest of their group. But on the other hand, I think, because it felt forced, I just kept asking questions, because I'm like, okay, is he the only scientist? Oh, no, he doesn't do astronomy. So is there an astronomer in the group? No, there doesn't seem to be. Oh, but nobody could track this. So I just ended up asking a bunch of questions of, like, 1,000 years isn't long enough for a society to grow up. There had to be older. Have they been hiding in caves? Are they underground? Did we check these? So I think because of those ideas, I just found myself asking more questions of, how did we get to this point? Which they kind of explain everything at the end, and I think it works, but it just didn't have as big of an impact for me. So I think some of the other episodes, I think, actually done a little bit better than this particular one, in my point of view. But, I love the idea that these people get screwed over because of their own hubris. And, again, theme to the show.
Hubris. Sheer fucking hubris. Here we go again with humanity thinking that they know best, and you're not going to move me, and et cetera, et cetera. And listen, you know what? Sometimes you gotta listen to people who might just be just a little bit smarter than you, right? Because now here we go again, where humanity has gone off on space colonization and decided we're also going to bring weapons of war with us, because we are the biggest, baddest mofos in the galaxy, and who is going to test us? Because we wiped out any enemy as soon as we reach their shores. And yeah, listen, what was like, hey, these solar flares come around once every 1,000 years. There's still vegetation here. There's still other forms of organic life. We're feeling that the aliens that we think have been wiped out, they're still here. They found a way to survive, and we need to get the hell out of here before they wake up. Well, you're just trying to fear mongering, scare. You just don't want us to have our freedom and our money. And no, you know what? Sometimes you need to stop and think. We developed on a planet for hundreds of thousands of years, and look at where we're at right now. And if some alien force was to come here, no matter whether they were hostile or not, we know that we will most likely be hostile to them because that's just what humanity does to outsiders. So it's one of these things where, unfortunately, you don't learn until it's too late, and the person who was trying to sound the alarm wound up getting sacrificed. And that very ending where the guy is telling us, like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, you should have listened to your scientist because he had the right thing. But now, all of you guys are going to get wiped out here. You're not going to get to warn anybody that you're getting wiped out. You've left us with the ability to defend ourselves from any more of your forces that come. And we now have ships to go invade your planet. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Colonial Marines. You're doing the planet such a great freaking service. Oh boy.
Maybe I misinterpreted the ending, but I thought like they weren't planning to invade other planets. They were going to use the ships to ensure that the humans couldn't go back.
Oh, no, they were using the defense platforms to protect themselves, and they're going to use the ships to start to spread out, because he says, hopefully we can find a planet that doesn't have these flare effects that we can live on. So yeah, I don't think they say specifically going to Earth, but he's definitely like, and now we can start to spread and maybe find a better home. And,
I did get that, but I didn't get invading other human colonies. I just thought.
I thought that they were probably going to go to Earth, or if not go to Earth, at least intercept any inbound ships.
Yeah, I definitely got to intercept the inbound ships, but I don't think they don't have enough power to take on Earth. They just have a small section.
Yet.
Well, anyway. I really like this episode. I have it as my number 3, mainly because I see it as like an early version of Don't Look Up, and non-comedic version as well. That it is totally a commentary on climate change denial and how, and that's what I love about it, because I think they really sell that this guy is coming with evidence and proof. And I mean, they add in this thing where he was wrong before, but he explains this is why I was wrong before. I misinterpreted that. It actually means this. But I feel like they're using that, oh, you were wrong before, as an excuse. Just like climate change denials will come up with their cherry-picked arguments, or straw man arguments, or obviously misinterpreted, oh, the climate has always been changing, blah, blah, blah. Yes, it has, but that's not relevant. The scientists can track that the reason why it's changing now is different than how it did it before. But anyway, so they come up with just BS excuses to justify their greed. And that's exactly what happens here. They just use that as an excuse and they're completely shut off and denying and being like, oh, we're going to lose those lots of money, blah, 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 if we don't. And so they don't want it to be true. So they make it not be true in their minds, which is such a great analogy to climate change denial. And I do love how at the end, when what's his face from Die Hard or whatever,
William Atherton,
really, this good actor, and he was so perfect for this role. But at the end, when he was like, oh, he was counting down when the scientist said it was going to happen, and the security guy was like, oh, did you actually believe it would happen? He's like, well, I did for a second. Like, it's hard not to. But which is interesting that he's saying he actually did believe it, but he was just in denial because he didn't want it to be true, and that part of him won out. And all the colonists are the same way, and it was just the two people that believed him. The scientists, the two people that believed him, were the ones that were able to make it out alive. And then there's also the element, as you mentioned, the manifest destiny thing. But I love that how they assume that the villain, the enemy within, is the guy that they don't want to listen to, but really it's your trusted security chief, because it's, again, they don't want to like him, so they assume bad things about him because he's telling them what they don't want to hear. And so I absolutely love that. And I think having the ending with the aliens as well makes it so that they kind of got what they deserve. Like,
oh, yeah.
And there's just like a warning of what happens. To me, I focused more on the climate change denial aspect of it more than the manifest destiny aspect of it. But that's definitely an element, and I think combined they actually make sense. But anywho, that's my sort of justification for putting this at number 3. All right, so let's get to my number 2. Number 2 was Tribunal, Season 5, Episode 12. Aaron Zgazowski, if I'm pronouncing that, I can't. A lawyer and the son of a Holocaust survivor is investigating the Nazi war criminal who murdered members of his family. He gets help from a mysterious time traveler who is able to produce evidence from Auschwitz in 1944. The writer had a father who survived the Holocaust and a sister who did not, and this episode was dedicated to them. Star Saul Rubinek had parents who also survived the Holocaust by being hidden from Nazis by a Catholic woman. It was written by Sam Egan. Also wrote for V, the 2000s versions, Continuum, Stargate SG-1, and Northern Exposure, The Fall Guy, and wrote a very similar episode for a show I never heard of called Quincy M.E. back in the early 80s. This was directed by Mario Azzopardi, who I already mentioned also directed the episode Tempests. Ranking on IMDb of 152 is number 2, so right where I have it. Rating is a 8.4. So I think we're to Don. Yeah, Don.
Very powerful episode. The bad guy gets what he deserves in the end, obviously. And I think that it's one of those things where, that's a few times where it's like you mess with time doesn't necessarily mess back, but like I said, they had the calculations to make sure there wouldn't be any kind of wrinkles. They did kind of the looper thing a little without necessarily, well, damn it, is that where Ron Johnson maybe got the idea? Anyway, I thought it was a very good episode. I like the fact that, it's like they were not going to stop until they proved this man's guilt. And it's like, you know what? To hell with it. You deserve the treatment that you gave people. So for this for this person to have to, sit there and beg himself for his own life and nothing can be done about it. Like, that to me was just so absolutely poetic that the book would get slaughtered by his own hand.
Yeah, this was deserved where it's at. This was an amazing episode. Saul Rubinek, just another one of those, just owns this episode. Everything feels so natural, so real, where some things can feel a little soap opera-y and a little over the top. This was so grounded with every bit of his performance, and I think the entire production. This just was a great feeling episode, a job, incredibly well done. Yeah, I love the turnaround, Rudenbacher getting shot by himself. And they're able to change time while working within time, because the daughter was gassed and never heard from again. She was taken to the chambers and never heard from again. So she was killed. So her being brought forward in time doesn't violate anything. And Rudebacher got tickets to fly to Argentina and was never heard from again. So the fact that, oh no, he didn't end up going to Argentina, he was sent back in time and shot by himself and thrown into a mass grave. You change time without violating any rules of time, in that sense of cause and effect, which I think was just a brilliant shot, not to mention just the emotional hit of this old man suddenly seeing his daughter alive in front of him, the same age, the same moment of when he last saw her. It's kind of like dealing with the John Cryer episode in its own kind of way, where you're actually, that being displaced in time gives you that closure as opposed to being returned back into time. I mean, again, it's just kind of a fun bit. And the idea when you find out the traveler is the descendant, so most likely this daughter is his grandmother that just got pulled forward in time, because we certainly seem that, like, Saul is getting back together with his wife. They're holding hands. They have the kid. It may not go that way, but it feels like that's a family unit there that then gives him the family that he didn't have. So, it's very sweet. It's very powerful. There is just a great karmic justice done in this. And again, I think the acting, the performance, the whole production was just felt great. Everything looked good. And even their time travel effects was simple, and it did not bother me at all. I was like, that actually looks great as a simple time travel effect for the time, and you're done. No, it was awesome. I mean, and God, that emotional when he kidnaps his dad's daughter and sends his dad to get him to the work camp and drags off, that he causes that moment of pain that ends up saving both of their lives. Yeah, again, just beautifully well done.
One minor nitpick, I'll just say that they are kind of mixing type 1 and type 2 time travel. Either you can change the past, or either it was always meant to happen this way. They're kind of doing both in a way. But
well, no, just your changes in time were meant to happen. Haha. Type 2.
No, but the way he describes the tribunal is like, oh, I'm not allowed to do certain things or whatever because it will alter the past. So if you can alter the past, you can alter the past. So it's
that's true. That's true. They found a loophole.
It's a minor thing. When an episode or story is so fucking good, I don't really care if there's a minor little inconsistency like that. And yeah, I can't watch this episode without like being completely drenched in tears by the end of it. It's like it's such a powerful episode. At one point, when I did my top 10 back when I watched this 4 years ago, I had my number 1 and 2 were reversed, and now I swapped them again. So this was my number 1 before, but it's hard. I love them both, so I go back and forth between the two. But this is one that I did see when it first came out, or shortly after it first came out. So this one did kind of sit with me for a while. And yeah, Saul Rubinek is fucking amazing. He's such a good actor. Like I remember like seeing him in Next Generation, and I did a side by side because it was originally played by a different actor, and I was just watching. I was like, "Oh my god!" Like Saul Rubinek is so much better. Like he's just such a good actor. Yeah, so the Prentice character, who's a time traveler, appears in 2 more episodes. Like they do spin-off episodes that show him time traveling, and it's not good. Like I wish they didn't do that. In fact, one of the episodes, like, is taking place while he's back and doing this episode. And I'm like, no, don't do that. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I see why this is a fan favorite, and I've heard a lot of people say like, "Oh, this is one of the rare episodes I saw," and I get it. I get why this is something they would want to show again. And knowing that the writer was basing it kind of off of his own parents' lives, was knowing that this was his sort of cathartic like way of giving it a happy ending. Like that, to me, that just makes it even more powerful. And that's why I disagree with Brandon that this is the darkest episode, because in the end, the Nazi asshole gets what he deserves, and the little daughter actually survives. But it's kind of like a bittersweet ending. As I said, like completely in tears by the end of it. Yeah. So let's go ahead and move over to my number 1. Which is A Stitch in Time, Season 2, Episode 4. At least 17 men have been executed in the last 2 decades without a clear motive with the same gun. FBI Special Agent Jamie Pratt has to find how some of those murders were carried out when the gun had not been made. Amanda Plummer won an Emmy for this episode. It was written by Stephen Barnes, who also wrote for Stargate SG-1, The Twilight Zone, the 80s version, and the 2020 version, Andromeda, and Baywatch, of all shows. Directed by Mario Azzopardi, who I mentioned twice already, directed a Tribunal and Tempests, so probably a regular director of The Outer Limits. Ranking on IMDb out of 152 is number 1. So my number 2 and number 1 match IMDb. And the rating on IMDb is an 8.4. So Darren, kick us off with The Stitch in Time.
Honey Bunny and Ensign Rowe. Yeah, totally get. Well, again, this was the first one that I watched, and then I was like, I need to go to number 10 because I just watched the best episode, and you don't want to be walking down. And then I had to recheck it out once I finished them before all the episodes climbing back up the ladder. This is a great episode. You know, maybe its effects can be a little dated, but the emotional impact is so strong. How they do a great of replaying events with characters, without characters, when the friend's alive, when the friend is dead, when the friend comes back alive. I love how the time travel is killing the traveler because she has to remember different realities. And then the big sacrifice, because again, I want to solve why am I doing this? To stop my own trauma from happening. But if I do that, I change myself. So it's the last thing that I'm going to try and do. And how it ends up getting picked up by the detective, because she goes from a reality where her friend was alive to where her friend is dead because of this guy. And wrapping, it's not the final scene, but the penultimate scene where she tracks the doctor down, where she tracks Amanda Plummer down and was like, tell me you built it. And she has such a different, vibrant, curious energy. But you know that she did because she was saved by the detective and she recognized. I mean, it's a great way of kind of continuing the story, continuing the adventure of, the time traveler that goes to right the wrongs, but also what the extreme cost of it is and what would drive you to do it. It's just, they got the science interesting, they got the emotion stuff, they got the drive and why you'd be willing to take these risks and do it. And again, just great actors behind it. I didn't know Amanda Plummer won an Emmy for this. Totally get why she would. It puts a smile on my face seeing that. So yeah, this again, you see this and you're like, well, I've got to watch more of this show, and then you realize, no, I got to watch some of the worst episodes because they're all not going to be like this. So yeah, the fact that this is number one and Tribunal is number two, of course it is on your list and in the greater list because these were awesome stories, very well told, that make you think more after they're done. And I think that's what a really powerful episode does.
Absolutely agreed. This was such a crazy episode, because you have the police trying to figure out, well, how do you have crime that happened with a gun that didn't exist at the time? And when they finally traced it to the person and, she kind of spells everything out, it's like, wow, this is actually kind of crazy. And you know what? It brings me to a little bit Minority Report, because this is definitely pre-crime at this point, because she's going back and killing these people, just, yeah, because it's like, okay, yeah, you were convicted of murdering and raping, X amount of people. I'm going to stop that from ever happening. But it's like, yeah, how far back do you take that? And then, again, when you're rewriting reality because of this and you're trying to, put everything back together in your own mind and remember, okay, well, yes, wait, you didn't work here before. You didn't live here before. Who are you? There are so many things that now it's like, okay, because how long is it before you're now adjusted to the new reality that you created? And it got to the point where now that reality that she was trying to stop, that reality now no longer exists. So she no longer has a mission, but someone else has picked up the mantle now. And the thing that I thought about it was like, okay, well, yes, this cop picked up this mantle now because now she's going to avenge her friend. But what happens when she avenges her friend? Like when she gets back to the regular world, what else is going to have changed? Is she now picking up the mission that the doctor originally had? And does it keep on playing out as a vicious cycle, almost like Telephone to a certain extent, where you get to a point where after you've done X amount, okay, now you get to go and live a happy life, but someone else has to pick up the lack of doing that work. So it's crazy to think about, just in terms of, like, is there an ending to this? But the other moral quandary is, what is the cost ultimately of doing this. I mean, listen, obviously, you know, these are people who were going to go on and commit heinous crimes, but you committing a crime to stop a crime, what has that now done to reality? Because this isn't just a crime against humanity, this is a crime against all reality at this point. You knew something was going to happen and you went back and killed someone to change that. You know, there were other things that you could have done to deter these men from committing these acts, but you said, no, I'm going to kill you. There were any number of things that could have been done to prevent these crimes. But, you know, the ultimate play was made, and you know, having to think about what the full consequences of that could be, to me, is the most astonishing thing out of it. Is, you know, like, just thinking about the ripple effects that this would cause. And again, is there going to be a situation where somebody is going to have to pick this up no matter what? This is a chain that can now not be broken. So that to me was you know, one of the big kind of mind fucks for me when it came to this episode. But I love thinking about stuff like that, so I'm all for it.
Yeah, so Don, you mentioned Minority Report. I was going to mention that too because I think that this is better. I think that this is better than it's a better version of Minority Report. So I did see this episode around the time it was released, and I bought it there was in the short DVD collection that I bought. It had this episode and Tribunal and a couple of other episodes that sucked, but it had those two episodes on it. It was like a time travel theme. It had like 6 episodes, and I would watch it repeatedly. I would show it to all of my friends. Like, everyone's like, you gotta see this, and they all loved it. Yeah, so this is what really like got me in love with the show. And Amanda Plummer is absolutely great. She's outstanding. But I think so is Michelle Forbes. Like, I really like Michelle Forbes as an actress, and her performance is more subtle, but that's what it should be. Like, when it gets to the end, when it gets a bit more emotional for her, especially with her having to deal with her dead friend and stuff, like, I think she plays that beautifully. Now, it is a little bit cheesy having the nerdy partner who is like, he's, you know, has a crush on her, obviously, and she's dating assholes. And at the end, when she experiences the other alternate reality where her friend's still alive, she realizes, oh, I should date this guy. So I think the ending where she's like, oh, let's go on this date after all, maybe, I don't know, maybe a bit iffy on that. But like, part of the reason why I do love this episode so much is because of the ending. Like, to me, this is like a perfect Outer Limits ending. Not like super depressing like Tempests or super happy like Vanishing Point, but kind of really ambiguous and sort of melancholy, sort of bittersweet, because yes, she's going to bring her friend back. Yes, she's going to go kill that murderer. So a lot of people are going to be brought back. But is she going to be able to stop? Is she going to end up being in the exact same situation that Amanda Plummer's character was, and having to be undone? It's almost like sort of an addiction going back, and it was for Amanda Plummer, I guess. And they do imply it's going to be the same way for Michelle Forbes' character at the end. So I love that. That's just ambiguous, like leaving it. Does she stop or does she not? Now, I will mention that they're also made a sequel, I think one sequel to this, which doesn't exist in my mind. Like, I'm wiping that from canon. That brings Amanda Plummer's character back, and it completely like retcons this episode. And I'm like, it's the second time when they have a really good popular episode. It's like, let's make a sequel to. No, stop! Like, leave it alone.
Let's make an inferior sequel.
Yeah, exactly. So that doesn't exist in my mind, because I think the way that they leave the ending ambiguous as to what happens, it more of hammers the point of the downside of saving these people's lives. And like Don, I totally agree with him what he mentioned about doesn't necessarily need to kill these people. There could be another way. There could be because it's funny, because there's another episode of The Outer Limits which almost made my top 10, another very popular one called The Conversion, which is about aliens coming to Earth and interceding on someone who is about to commit murder and changing their mind and getting them to realize there's a different way. And so this alien goes around to different people. It's a much more happy, it's a very new age themed episode. I actually quite liked it. But this sort of takes, the different route that, it's easier just to kill them and also give in to your rage as well. So that's speaks to the characters, but it's like, it's understandable. Like, you understand going back in time and killing mass murderers and rapists, and so
well, I think that's how they kind of dealt with that. Is like, these were serial killers.
Yes, serial killers.
So it's like they just stopped him before that first one. This is the first one that got me the taste, and then I couldn't go on and do all the things. So I think they're just like, look, you're going to be a killer. So before we could do that one, we're just going to take you out, as opposed to, and we're taking you off to an insane asylum.
But my point is that they could have traveled back earlier and did something to sort of divert their life where they never became a serial killer.
Sure.
It's like, I heard this philosophical discussion in this movie once. Is interesting because they're talking about, if you had a time machine, would you travel back in time and kill baby Hitler, which is the common one? And this one guy's response is, no, I wouldn't. I would go back to when he was younger. I would try to make him see the errors of his ways and sort of try to talk him out of it and make him become a different person. But that's obviously takes a lot more effort and it's easier to
saves you from infanticide,
exactly. So yes, but it is interesting. It does have that moral grayness to it. That, because I love how they did emphasize that in the episode where when she killed that one guy and he was like, but I didn't do anything. So it's like, is it really like justified if he hadn't done anything yet? That's what the Minority Report brings up as well.
Sure. But no, I mean, I think you're right. It's the ambiguity of the ending of, does she continue on? Is this going to be the only one? Is she going to be pulled into it? Yeah, it's a much better Outer Limits ending. You don't want a clean ending. I mean, sometimes we've had nice ones, but no, this is one of those where it definitely is much better because of its ambiguity.
And there, yes, exactly. And maybe that's where, I was criticizing that scene with the partner or whatever, but maybe that's where it plays in, because it gives you a glimmer of hope. It gives you, maybe once her friend's back, she will settle in and be happy and not continue to go back and kill other serial killers, but maybe she will. So it might be a temptation that's too strong to resist. So I love that interesting ambiguity.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and wrap this up. Technical difficulties probably delayed this a bit longer, but that's all good. Thanks everyone for joining and watching. I know Brandon was here earlier, had to leave, and we had Rob step in briefly, and I believe Tyler was here for a second. So some people stepping in. So thanks for checking this out. And so I gotta ask before we go, both of you, my goal, because this whole idea for this video was because we did this time loop video and we watched an episode of Outer Limits, and both of you did not like it. And I would say that is in my top 20. I really like that episode. So I was like, well, can I sell you on The Outer Limits? Can I show you like the really good episodes and maybe make you like the show a bit better? So did I succeed? Darren, we'll start with you.
Yeah, and in fact, I thought about the Outer Limits time loop episode with Kevin Nealon in it. I know the one you're talking about, and it does have a great ending with it so repetitive and stuff. So yeah, in its sense, I think having thought about it more, appreciate it a little bit more. But yeah, overall, I've gotten a much better idea. And honestly, it's a humbling bit where you just realize it's like, hey, there's a lot of good stuff out there, and it may not be something that you're originally attracted to, but that doesn't make it crap just because you haven't watched it. And there was some really nice stuff in with this, and I'm excited. So thank you for sharing this.
Yeah. And if you want, I could send you another list of good episodes to watch, or at your leisure, though. Yeah, Don, did I sell you on this?
Yes, I mean, listen, I'm a lover of sci-fi, but mainly lover of good storytelling. So as long as I get something with a thought-provoking and coherent narrative, I'm good. So this beat expectation on some levels, because yes, it was kind of hard to get past some of the cheesy cinematography and special effects, but after getting past that and just focusing more on the stories, excellent work. And yeah, I'd be willing to trudge through some schlock to get to some really good stories. But hopefully you're only going to be sending me the good stuff. So
yeah, no, I'll send you the good stuff so you can avoid it. And that's the thing, I wouldn't recommend binging it the way I did, because there's some episodes that are terrible, and there's a lot of just mediocre sort of slop. But there's like plenty of good stuff. So if you just focus on the good stuff, then yeah.
But according to your own rankings, it is still all downhill from here. So, I mean, I don't know, man.
But your rankings might be different than mine, though, because you didn't think that To Tell the Truth should have been as high as it was. So maybe there's something else you'd watch that you think should have been higher. So
fair.
Always be the case. Like IMDb's ranking is very different than mine. Like other than my 1 and 2 and 7, their top 10 is like totally different. It has episodes like that's okay, but it's not that good. So. So different people had different reactions to it. Anyway, yes. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining. Darrin and John, if you want to give a quick shout out, if you have anything going on. Darrin, we'll start with you.
We're about to jump back in over at D's Reviews as season 2 of Daredevil Born Again is coming up at the end of this month. You might see some of these guys in some talks. Rob definitely will be joining me from over in Smirking Gun Reviews, and if you check out our Outer Rim channel, we will be having a new episode dropping out probably the next week or so. Got to finish some stuff where we're going to be discussing V for Vendetta, and maybe how that seems to be much more poignant today than maybe even the time that it came out. So yeah, keep an eye out at the Outer Rim for that. And then I'll probably be hanging out with this guy and some more stuff. So, keep an eye on this channel.
Okay. As far as where you can find me, either with this guy or this guy, doing whatever it is they invite me to do, pretty much. This is my current YouTube presence at this point, and I'm good with it. So thank you for having me. You know what? And no more drinking while watching episodes, because apparently I forget things. So yes, it will be strictly water whenever Mark is asking me to watch something that I plan on speaking on later.
Or miss the last 2 essential minutes.
Yeah, so yeah. So no watching too late, and no drinking. You know what though? I realized that part of it also was the fact that I was hopped up on painkillers. So that might
does
possibly
make a difference. Yes.
That that's a legitimate excuse right there, man.
Yes,
That's a
yes,
legitimate
it
excuse.
is.
Anyway,
All right.
over to you.
Yeah. So if you're finding me for the first time, my name's Mark, channel Enchantment of Eternity. Next week, I'll be back with Darren and my sister Alyssa to talk about Starfleet Academy and sort of rank the episodes. So that will be fun. And I'm covering every single goddamn episode of Star Trek on my channel. Just about to start season 6 of DS9 and season 4 of Voyager. So it's going, it's still going. I want to see it through to the end, god damn it. But anyway, yeah, so that's mainly what I'm doing. I got other stuff coming up randomly. I have my podcast to do with my sister on current events. It's on my channel, but we call the podcast What's Going On. I think next time we're going to say what's going on with the Epstein file. That should come out in a couple weeks or so. So, yeah. So, yeah, be sure to check me out for that. Check out these guys. Thanks so much for joining us for this, and we'll see you next time. Dun, 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 dun.